And so I just wanted to start the podcast in the FiveStack. We've got lots of stuff to get to today. That's my man Zev right there.
Can I
I'm
interrupt that
Dean.
for just 1
Yes,
second? Because I know
please.
you're,
Of course.
because as you were saying those words, that I feel free. I recall, when I first moved to Canada from South Africa, having been there for 20 odd years of my life, covering the end of apartheid and the tension around the end of apartheid. When I stepped onto Toronto streets as a Canadian for the first time, and walked down the street and felt this feeling I hadn't felt for a long time. And that feeling was the absence of fear for the first time in a long time. I no longer had to be worried about being arrested, shot as I was driving my car down the streets of Johannesburg. I no longer had to be concerned about the police coming after me for the reporting I'd done. I don't have to worry about being a gay man in a city anymore because it was legal. And and Canada has a way of enveloping you and making you feel very, very comfortable and very at home. And what you were saying there about that feeling of the absence of fear and that feeling of freedom is remarkable. And that used to be the feeling I got in New York City. It used to be the feeling I'd go every time I'd go to New York or I lived in New York, of course, or any other city in the States. I used to have that feeling of freedom, and you can't have that feeling of freedom anymore. Now I'm in exile from the country that I wanted to spend the rest of my life in, but I can't. So, this is and I feel for every American struggling with this choice right now, because so many of them are. Tim Snyder was talking about this the other day about, the conflict he's having about abandoning his country at the same time as just needing to be somewhere else that keeps his family safe and his career safe. It's a very challenging thing, but, everyone's, a lot of these conversations are happening right now.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, Zeb, because I've only ever known this, right? I immigrated to Canada from England as a 2-year-old. My dad was promised a better life in Canada. He experienced it. My mom did. She experienced it. My dad was the son of a gangster who worked in a box factory who ended up becoming a radio executive, right? My mom was the son of a photographer for the Daily Mail who, married my dad, unfortunately, but now fortunately, right? Because he made good on the promise he made to my grandparents to take their daughter to Canada to provide a better life for her. And we've experienced that breath of relief, not known to me, right? It's known to my dad, it's known to my mom, it's known to you, it's known to this medical professional who I was on the phone with today, and she will join us on the podcast respectfully. But I find that to be such an underrated perspective. One from a country where totalitarianism was on order, where you couldn't be a gay man, you couldn't be a black man, you couldn't be a woman with reproductive rights. You were emboldened and held to a standard by autocracy, by a dictator, by, whether it's the Islamic regime in Russia, in Iran, or the regime in Russia, or North Korea. There are not a lot of people that can recount an experience where they land literally in a different country, put their feet down in a different country. In Canada, that happens all the fucking time. And I'm jealous of that experience. Whereas I'm also, actually petrified of the experience that you had where you came here and you, Zev, my friend, Zev Shalev, experienced that sigh of relief of coming to a country where we just wrap our arms around people and tell you to go get it. That is unknown to most ungrateful, maple maggots, Canadian hillbillies, people who call this country tyrannical. Tyranny. You've experienced it. That's not here.
And that breath of freedom, that breath of the absence of fear is priceless. I mean, it's not, I would not trade that for anything. I would not trade it for $1 billion if you gave it to me right now, because the absence of fear is living. You're able to live, you're able to be who you are, you're able to exist in the world and chart your own course. Everything else is a compromise. Everything else is a compromise.
Can I just say this too about your experience and that word fear? And not a lot of people know this, and I think it's really important to maintain. I'll get emotional talking about it because of the journey that I've been on in my life. The opposite of fear is love. You experienced love when you got here. Love from a country, love from its citizens. The opposite of fear is love. It's not, security or comfort. It's none of those words. It's just love. And Canada has been that country and always will be. I was reminded of that today with this Air Canada commercial where Air Canada put out a promo saying we had our first fully staffed LGBTQIA2 flight,
Oh,
right?
great. Good
So they
job.
put out this promo and they're like, our pilots are gay, our flight attendants are gay. I'm like, okay, I know that.
That's not new, but still.
Yeah.
Well done, Air
Yeah.
Canada.
And and I'm like, no shit. In a fun way.
Yeah.
But I watched everybody pile on, I don't want this shoved down my throat. So I'm like, it's a fucking commercial. It's a statement about inclusivity and marginalization. And I am so proud of Air Canada today for
Mhm.
doing that in an environment where that is largely uncomfortable and prevents people from living their best lives and has sort of put gay people in the LGBTQ community back in the closet. Now, listen, I say all these things from a perspective of being a shock jock who got fired for being
Mhm.
homophobic.
Mhm.
Okay. I say all those things knowing my history of feeling like I was allowed to throw logs in the journey of the gay community because they were just jokes. The gay community is not a joke. It's
Nope.
full of beautiful people who have experienced this incredible progressive wave where they can feel comfortable in any and every space. And then I watched maggots and maple maggots and hillbillies and uneducated fucking buffoons jump on this commercial. And for a second I thought to myself, has something happened to me or is something happened to them? And I think something's happened to me where I've opened up my mind, I've educated myself, I've gone to the well, I've tried to understand other people, and I've decided that, the fruit of this life is being of good character and acts for the common good. Nothing else. There's nothing else. I don't have any other impetus in this life. And that is what Canada is charting a course towards. And that is what you experienced when we got here. It was like, hey, man, welcome. We love you. You're really good at what you do. And we want you to be part of the fabric of this country. It does not matter who you sleep with. It doesn't matter what your preferences are. It doesn't matter about your skin or hair color. It doesn't matter if you like red things, blue things, black things, or white things. What really matters here in this country is, do you love freedom? Do you love habeas corpus? Are you proud to be who you are? And are you willing to contribute to the environment that you live in? And that is what Canada is all about. And when I talked to this woman today, this wonderful lady who's a healthcare professional, like I said, we'll have her on the podcast. She contacted me through Substack to tell me about her journey. And I thought to myself, that's who we are. That's who we are. We're a sigh of relief for the world. We're a break from authoritarianism. We are a comfort and a safe haven for so many people around the world who've experienced nothing but oppression, that we welcome you into this country. Now, having said that, Mark Carney put out a bunch of sweeping immigration announcements today. We're like, we need to hold that
We're
train up. But
full, yeah.
that's for reasonable, issues and reasons. But I was struck by that, struck by your conversation today that we had to start the program, and really grateful that you shared that with me. And I hated to get off on a tangent to vamp the start of
No, I think
the
it's
five stack, but I
you know what
mean
I
we
think
got
of the
five more stories to get to,
we're
dude.
gonna get to them. We're gonna get to them. I just to emphasize what you're saying about the opposite of fear is love. Came up yesterday in our session that we did in a seminar with Olga Lautman. That the way to combat the MAGA tide, the way to combat the Trump administration is not by talking down, is not by attacking the logic through logic or through policy, all that stuff that the Trump crowd are giving us. It's by making sure we address their psychological needs, because what they're reacting to is feeling like they've been left out, they've lost their superiority, they're being replaced, all this kind of stuff. And so, the upshot of our first session yesterday was the job of Democrats and others is really to unite, to bring people into the fold, not to push them away. And we need to replace that need for belonging, replace their need for status, replace their need for why America is a great place to be by speaking to them in a loving way and by being loving. And I think that's what you get in Canada. I mean, regardless of where you are on which political spectrum you are, you're always going to have a polite conversation. Very
Mhm.
rarely are you going to have an impolite conversation about anything. And it starts with the weather. And,
Unless
little
you follow
Karen.
me on Twitter, then it
And
will
on the
probably
other
be
hand,
an
Dean's a
impolite
completely another
conversation.
story. Yeah. So we have five big stories on the countdown today on the five stack, and we begin with this call by Putin vows retaliation to Trump after the incredibly devastating spiderweb attack by the Ukrainians. So in a 75-minute phone call with President Trump, Vladimir Putin very strongly vowed that Russia will have to respond to Ukraine's devastating Operation Spiderweb. And that's the drone attack that destroyed or damaged maybe as much as 41, could be a little bit less, Russian aircraft, including nuclear-capable bombers. The coordinated strike hit 5 air bases, as we've told you before, spanning 5 time zones, using 117 drones and smuggled into Russia over 18 months. And, here is Vladimir Putin on the call with the supposed leader of the free world, telling him he's going to retaliate by doing something even more terrible to Ukraine. And Trump doesn't do what he should be doing, because last time he said he was getting mad, and Putin's gone crazy, and Putin's got to stop this. And he doesn't tell Putin that he's got to stop this. He doesn't say anything like that. He basically comes out of the press conference and say, "Hey, Putin's mad," of the phone call, and saying Putin's mad. This word taco, this Trump always chickens out, is exactly the perfect thing for this phone call. It is the taco phone call of them all, because
Mhm.
honestly, Trump, you can do so much. Zelensky's calling for you to today introduce stronger sanctions against Russia. There's a bill sitting in the Senate with 80 co-sponsors, all willing to support funding Ukraine and harming Russia's economy in order to stop this war. And Trump doesn't do a thing. He walks out of that phone call and says, whatever.
Whatever, he's gonna help me with Iran. Let me read it to
Yeah,
you. Let me read you the Truth Social post.
great.
I'm really glad we're starting here because, to your point, taco, Trump always chickens out. By the way, the third most searched word on Google this last week behind the and a short fourth is if, by the way. I'm not even kidding you.
Trump must love
Um,
that. He's almost number one. He's great for him.
Oh, he probably looks at it like it's a big deal. Yeah, yeah. But he said he spoke with Putin today, and he described Ukraine's recent drone attack in a way that legitimately makes it sound like Russia's the fucking victim. Let me read this to you. I just finished speaking by telephone. No shit, Dick Tracy, with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted approximately an hour and 15 minutes. We discussed the attack on Russia's docked airplanes
Docked airplanes.
by Ukraine. Yeah, yeah, victim. And
Oy.
also various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. Keep in mind, this is the president of the United States, the dotard himself, the diaper filling shit vermin, Donald Trump, talking about Vladimir Putin's Russia, who attacked Ukraine 3 years ago and has raped, murdered, pillaged, kidnapped their way through Ukraine over the past 3 years. Just keep that in mind.
I keep it in mind.
Um, he's both sides. He's like both sides. Remember, like Charlottesville.
Mm,
Both sides have good people. The
mhm.
racist fucking and the Jews. Like both sides have good people. Anyway, he's like, it was a good conversation, but not a conversation that'll lead to immediate peace. So we know President Putin does not give a fuck about peace. It was a good conversation. Yeah. President Putin did say very strongly that he will have to respond to the recent attacks on the airfields. We also discussed Iran and the fact that time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. Keep in mind, this is a rollback of Obama uranium enrichment
It's basically
policies,
the same thing. It's just
but
crazy.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
worse. Yeah,
worse for
slightly worse. Yeah.
Iran. Yeah, and Iran basically told him to fuck off yesterday. I stated to President Putin that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. And on this, I believe that we are in agreement. I believe we're in agreement. He's getting played. President Putin suggested that he will participate in the discussions with Iran and that he could perhaps be helpful in getting this brought to a rapid conclusion. It's my opinion that Iran has been slow walking their decision on this very important matter. We need a definitive answer in a very short period of time. That's the end of the Truth Social post. That happened 2 hours ago. Let me kind of translate that for you if I can. I am licking Putin's balls
Hmm.
every chance I get. And in no way will I ever, ever, ever say that Vladimir Putin is a terrorist dictator who is committing genocide in Ukraine, who sent over 1,200 bombs, Shahed drones, and ballistic missiles into Ukraine over the previous 72 hours before Ukraine decided to use 112 drones to take out Russia's ability to commit genocide on the Ukrainian people. That is exactly what he's saying. So do not ever think for a fucking second that this prick, this drug addled pedophile, rapist, felon, is ever going to be on the side of democracy, ever going to be on the side of the Ukrainian people, or if he's ever going to make a decision for the American people based in peace that has anything to do with anything other than appeasing Vladimir Putin, because that is all I read in that asshole's Truth Social tweet today.
Well, if you put it that way, I mean, that sounds a bit gay,
Strong.
actually. Don't you think it sounds a bit gay that Putin Trump things,
Licking the balls?
licking
Yeah,
the balls
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah,
Listen,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the thing that bugs me the most about I have to take a breath here because this layering of other issues that you're failing at. So, instead of fixing the problem at hand, which is Ukraine is a massive problem, you should try to fix it. He'll layer on Iran as a way to deflect, really. The Iran thing is going nowhere on its own. It doesn't need Putin to help it go nowhere on its own. It's never going to get resolved by this administration. So what we've got is them just obfuscating, diverting, doing everything they can to turn the attention away from the fact that Putin is still prosecuting this war at a very aggressive rate against the Ukrainian people, and that they are busy trying to fight for their lives by attacking these planes, which were on the ground, not docked. Were they docked? I didn't see them docked.
No, and
I mean, no,
let me give you a little extra of
yeah,
juice for that conversation.
yeah,
You can go and read about it at my Substack. Ukraine attacked, and this was 18 months in the making. They
mm,
sped up the drone attack because they had 41 planes
mm,
fully fueled with ballistic missiles
yeah,
that were meant for neighborhoods, hospitals, schools,
yeah,
daycares, apartment buildings. That afternoon, they preempted that strike by days because they had to save their citizens. Ukraine didn't attack docked planes. They
exactly.
attacked fully fueled death cult fucking bombing machines
They were coming to kill their
that
citizens
were coming to
en
kill
masse.
their fucking people. And that fucking prick of a president
Mhm.
somehow was able to spin that into, oh, Ukraine attacked Russians' docked planes. Now they have to react. Are you fucking kidding me? What fucking world do we live in when a dictatorial regime
Mhm.
goes to the president of the United States and says, we've been harmed because over the past 3 years, we've raped, murdered, tortured hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians for our own edification. And they hit back at our ability to continue to murder them. They didn't kill our citizens, they took out our fucking bomber fleet. What world do we live in where the president of the United States takes that side? The world that we live in is a world where the president of the United States isn't a dictator in waiting anymore. He is fully on board with the
Peacefully.
how do I fucking get my card carrying member into the dictatorial society of the worst fucking human beings on the planet because it'll keep me rich and keep me out of prison. There is no other alternative to that conversation other than what I just told you. And you better fucking believe it because this is the only alternative. This is the reality that you live in right now.
And this is, I said this as well earlier on. This is counter to America's national interest. There's not a single American analyst of any form, any military person who will tell you that this is good for America's national interest. It is getting us closer and closer to a world war that is going to be catastrophic for the entire planet. And if Putin isn't defeated in Ukraine, we have a really big problem on our hands. And the reason Putin is not going to get defeated in Ukraine is simply because of Donald Trump acting against the national interest of America, actually working treasonously against America's security, against America's defenses. So this is no longer a hypothetical, well, we're not in a war yet situation. We are in a war situation. This is treason. He's helping the enemy. He's aiding and abetting the enemy, and this enemy is going to be coming after us before we know it. And we're not doing anything to stop it. This is not just appeasement, this is treason. And it needs to be stopped. And there are many, many people in this country, 80% or more, who believe that Ukraine should be supported by America and that there should not be a stopping of the aid to America. And so there's a bill right now in the Senate, 82 co-sponsors. When has the Senate agreed to anything that unanimously? 82% of the Senate are willing to say yes to this vote. If John Thune just put it up to a vote, but he won't put it up to a vote, even though he knows how good a bill it is and how it could stop Vladimir Putin in his tracks. And yet it's Donald Trump and Donald Trump's veto threats and everything else that is stopping that from happening. And I think they should put that bill to a vote. They should put it today, as soon as they can. And every senator needs to get on the record about where they are on America's national interests. Are they on Putin's side? Are they on Putin's side as he starts World War III? Or are they on Ukraine's side? Because if they're on the side of freedom, we need to know that they're on the side of freedom. And if they're not on the side of freedom, I want to see that on the record too. And I don't care if Trump has to then veto it. I don't care if he does that. It's fine. Let him do that. But we need to see every senator speak up for this really important point at this very critical time. We cannot let Putin win this war. We cannot let Putin prevail. And absolutely, if he's threatening an escalation of any sort because the Ukrainians basically defended themselves from
He
these killer
co-signed the escalation.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. This is not something you say. That is not something that Putin said very strongly. That is something that Putin said egregiously, criminally, and cannot be countenanced by our national policy, and it needs to be stopped right away. And every single person who's in the reach of their phone, call your senator right now, demand that bill get to the Senate floor, and demand that they pass it, because it needs to happen. The Ukrainian people can only sustain so much. This is going on week after week after week. Putin's playing with them with these fake conferences, these fake peace talks. Trump lied to them. He said it was going to be over in 48 hours. Well, where is that peace, Mr. Trump? It didn't happen. So if you can't pull it off, do what you need to do, which is back up the Ukrainians who stand for our values, who stand for democracy, who stand for freedom, who stand for democratic values and voting rights. We need those people supported, not the criminal from the Kremlin. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because it's not a criminal in the just a criminal in the Kremlin. It's a criminal in the White House, and criminals back up other criminals, and they co-sign each other's criminal activity. And I am absolutely on side with your impassioned rant about who we support and why we support them, and why it's America's job to fucking hold those people to account. But I got another one for you. Ukraine is not done.
No,
Ukraine is not, and Ukrainian partners, the Coalition of the Willing, Canada, the EU, Spain, several other countries like Australia, New Zealand, you know, they're going to decide when this war ends. It's not Donald Trump holding up aid anymore, because he's done that enough that the Ukrainians have realized that they've got better partners elsewhere, including us and several other countries that have the ability, manpower, wherewithal to be able to co-sign their ability to defend themselves. And that's what you saw. Hey, there's a fucking very specific reason why the White House was the last to learn about the Ukrainian drone attack, the last to learn about the Kerch bridge attack, held hostage by the fact that they're no longer in the loop. And here's another thing. I had a conversation with someone in Mr. Carney's orbit today. He's like, we have stopped sharing intelligence with the United States of America. And the reason why is because of that fucking Truth Social tweet that you saw today that co-signed Russia's ability to respond in kind, which means they're going to respond with 100 times the aggression. They're going to murder all kinds of civilians, daycares, hospital, double taps when ambulances arrive or fire trucks arrive to put out a fire because Russia has bombed another fucking apartment building or another school or another daycare, another hospital. And that is what is going to end this war. It's Ukraine and their partners. It's not a fucking derelict pariah state like the United States of America under the Trump regime. And I say that respectfully, knowing that the United States of America is not represented by him, but you are now. It is not his rhetoric or the rhetoric of Pete Hegseth, who, by the way, today said he's not going to
Yeah.
attend any peace meetings or ceasefire conversations because it doesn't matter anymore. The United States was never, ever, ever going to end this with any altruistic perspective because the United States is being run by a fucking madman whose entire goal is to be on the winning side of the equation. And don't question for a second the idea that aid will flood back into Ukraine when Donald Trump and the Trump regime realize that Ukraine is going to win this war, because that is exactly the Trump MO. How can I line up behind winners? Not lead from the front, but how can I lead from the back, line up behind winners, and tell everybody that they did this because of me? Listen, India is roundly and soundly, Indian media, mocking Donald Trump because Donald Trump, for the past 4 or 5 days, has said, hey, if it wasn't for me, Pakistan and India would be having a nuclear war. And India is like literally playing the taco chicken dance songs
Yeah.
on their national media, going, not only did you not have anything to do with it,
Mm.
we did, Pakistan did, Turkey did, and we decided to stop the bombing because we need to de-escalate. It had nothing to do with Donald Trump. All he gives a fuck about is taking credit. He doesn't care about
That's all he
peace in
cares
this
about.
world. He doesn't care about humanity.
He cares
He
about
cares
money.
about his place in it and how he can enrich himself through the process.
And just to put a final bullet on this thing, the Senate bill, by the way, is not about aid to Ukraine. It's about sanctioning the people who are buying and selling Russian oil, and that's where the real hurt can come in terms of Russia right now. And Zelensky is calling for Trump to implement these sanctions. Trump previously said he would do it because crazy Putin. Well, let's see him actually come through on something. Let's see him not chicken out on something. Let's see Donald Trump actually put some sanctions and some actual action behind his words and stop Vladimir Putin today.
Agreed. Agreed. Story number 4.
Number 4 is the U.S. private sector added only 37,000 jobs in May 2025, marking the lowest monthly gain in more than 2 years and falling far behind economists' expectations of 110,000 to 115,000 jobs. The shocking ADP report has prompted President Trump to renew pressure on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates immediately, which is kind of a nonsense thing to suggest and not the right thing to suggest, of course, because this is number 3 now. I'm going to do 4 and 3 together because we're running out of time. The number 3 story is Trump's 50% steel and aluminum tariffs took effect today as the housing market also posted its worst buyer-seller imbalance on record. And as we just mentioned, job creation collapsed. Sellers now outnumber buyers by 490,000. That's a 33.7% imbalance in the housing market. That's the widest since tracking began in 2013. While car prices could jump $2,000 to $4,000 due to tariff costs hitting steel, that makes up to 54% of vehicles. This is Trump's economy, everybody. Dean.
Hope you like it, everyone. This is what you voted for. You know, every time Trump tells you this is what you voted for, every time his ICE agents arrive in your neighborhood to abscond your fucking neighbors and disappear your friends, this is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. Good news is you can vote this out. You can decide that you can vote with your minds. You can vote with your feet by leaving the country. You can vote with your brains by deciding that you're not going to be part of this revolution of stupidity in the United States of America. You can do it. You can. Everybody can. I am never shocked. I've said this before on the podcast anymore by anything that this moron and his administration do. None of it, not only does it make sense, but I read a great little study the other day from people that knew Trump, were in Trump's world, that were asked a couple of questions. And one of the questions that they were asked is there a plan or strategy behind what Trump does and what he says, or does he wing it? 10 out of 10 people said not only does he not have a plan or a strategy, he wings it according to what's best for his reputation, what's best for his ego. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So America is literally right now being run by somebody who just doesn't want to look bad and will kill Americans. He will co-sign the death of Americans. He will co-sign the death of the American economy as long as he doesn't look bad. So suck on that tonight when you decide whether or not in 2028 you're going to vote for his understudy, or God forbid he's still alive and you vote for him again. This is what you get. This is what you voted for. And I know a lot of people that watch this are going, yeah, it's got nothing to do with me. I didn't vote for that guy. No, no, no. It does. It's got everything to do with you, even though you didn't vote for that guy. Because you have the ability to talk to your neighbors. You've got the ability to fucking enact some kind of change in your little circle. And that's how this stuff changes. That's why authoritarianism is on the docket in the United States of America. It's because enough people voted for it that it is the order of the fucking day. It is. So don't question whether or not you're in this reality, because you are. The United States of America is literally in a reality. They're being run by a moron. They're being run by an egomaniac. They're being run by a regime of fucking idiots like Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard. Name me any one of his other Linda McMahon, Sean Duffy, a reality TV star. Linda McMahon, who was, the only qualification she has is being married to Vince McMahon. If you know anything about Vince McMahon, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. This is who is running your country. This is who is in charge of what you do and who you are and where you're going. Make better decisions next time. This won't happen again. It's pretty simple.
And this is an opportunity in some ways. I mean, the economy is cratering. I mean, what we're seeing here is the job creation out the window, the ability to buy a house and make a profit out of it. That's out the window. It looks to me like it's going to be a buyer's market for a long time now, if that's the differential. You want to buy a car? Want to buy a car? Well, that's going to be way out of reach now. It's going to be like $4,000 more expensive. And so you've got no jobs, you've got no houses, and you've got no cars. This is the American dream being deconstructed in real time by the president of the United States. This is everything that you ever thought you wanted in life, which was, to be able to have a nice house, have a good family, have a kid, have a car, and, go on an occasional vacation every once in a while, and, a job. Those things are disappearing, and they're disappearing because of this government. And there are people who are going to start feeling it in a way that they didn't feel the pain before. They're going to feel it in red states now. They're going to feel it in places that, that have been protected to some extent. They're going to start seeing the costs of this ridiculous policy. And this is before the big, beautiful bill gets added to everyone's, a toll, and Medicare and Medicaid start disappearing from people. Mm-hmm. So this, how we approach the red states and how we approach the MAGA followers right now is to show them that there is a better way, that this path that they've chosen is destructive, and there's a much better way if they become part of the democratic movement to support democracy and return America to its real greatness. I mean, this is not making America great. If anyone thinks, no houses, no jobs, no cars is making America great, you're sorely mistaken. What will make America great is returning to the values, the things that have made us great all along, the things that established America 250 years ago as the free and independent state that it is. We need to not reinvent it, just get back to it, back to that beautiful thing that America gave the world, which is freedom, liberty, capitalism, you name it. And and this little pain points that these people are going to start feeling is the opportunity to engage with them and to say, come on over to our side, get into our tent, because our tent's much bigger, and our tent has actually proven that we can do things. Every time Democrats have run the economy's grown. Every time the Republicans have done it, they've just increased the deficit and the debt.
Do you know how much interest rates are in the United States right now for a mortgage? 6.99%.
Yeah, 7%. Yeah.
Do you know how much they are in Canada? By the way, the Fed here in Canada,
2.75.
the Bank of Canada, 2.85. Not going anywhere. We're not raising our interest rates. Jerome Powell is going to have to raise interest rates again in the United States of America. That's already more than double. So we're at 2.99 in Canada, 6.99 in the United States of America. What is the key difference here, right? You talk about home ownership. That's a big fucking bill when you buy $1 million home. It's a big bill. It's all interest for the first 8 to 10 years. What's the difference?
Oh, well.
The difference is Canada did not elect a fucking bankrupt failure, a moron, a performative con man as our leader. We didn't. Sure. Did we have Justin Trudeau? You and I have differences of opinion when it comes to Justin Trudeau being a drama teacher who was wholly unqualified to lead this country, but socially, he did a good job of leading this country. When it comes to the monetary value of this country, he did a shit job. But now Canada has elected former Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of England governor, a guy with his doctorate in economics, historical fucking figure.
Mhm.
And not only is he leading Canada out of that fucking mess, he's charting a new course for Canada that has nothing to do with the dependence of a financially bankrupt America. Nothing.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with it. And so when Tiff Macklem, who's the governor of the Bank of Canada here, today said, we're going to keep interest rates where they are. Our economy is actually doing really well. Our GDP was plus 2.2%. The United States down 1.4%. They were minus 1.4 for GDP growth, so negative GDP growth.
Crazy.
The reason why we did that is because we have confidence in our leadership for the first time in a very long time when it comes to the business of government, where it affects the business of the individuals who voted that government in. The United States has none of that. You have a con man who has done nothing but spend other people's money for the last 79 fucking years of his miserable, drug addicted, pedophilic, felonious life. Nothing. And so what do you get from that? You get the America you voted for. And I go back to this all the time. And I hear people complaining about it. You know, former Trump supporters who are like, I didn't know it'd be this bad. I'm like, yeah, you did.
We
You
told you.
fucking
We
did.
told you.
Not only did we tell you, you had the receipts from his first 4 years where he came close to bankrupting the United States, and a fucking 80-year-old that couldn't figure out a way to get off the stage. All he had to do was go, yeah, let's just put it on autoplay and let the country take care of itself, which he did. And the country took care of itself. Then you insert this fucking authoritarian piece of shit in the mix again. And he's like, I want to feel self-importance. So I'm going to decide to shake the markets with fucking tariffs. I'm going to decide to set prices when it comes to prices. I'm going to decide to run roughshod over the economy just so I can get that spike of fucking, woe's me, I'm the guy. And this is, again, what you voted for. And I hope, and this is the one thing I hope for the people of America today, because there's so many good people who are suffering through a really terrible situation in the United States. And I hope that y'all get it by now. I really do.
Just to add to your point there, just to give you a little bit more meat there, the budget office in the Congress just scored their new big beautiful budget bill at $2.4 trillion increase in debt. Was it deficit or debt? Actually, now that I think about
it, deficit.
Yeah, that is why interest rates are so high, because they can't sell their bonds, because no one wants to support the American economy, because the economic policy sucks, and so that's why interest rates are going up. That's why people are selling their homes. That's why people are buying less homes, and that's why people are going to suffer even more as inflation goes up, because they know inflation is going up. They're keeping it down for a little bit. They're just waiting for this big boon that's coming at the beginning with all these tariffs that they can steal that money, basically walk away, and then leave America holding the can down the line.
Have you looked at Elon Musk's Twitter account in the past day?
No.
Well, I have. Let me read you some of the tweets, actually, because I saved them. They're fucking phenomenal. And I hate the guy. And I can't decide, there's an impetus for why he's doing this. I can't decide if the impetus for why he's doing this is to save his own ass.
His own EV regulation that gets part of the big, beautiful bill is that, this, as you pointed out in your story yesterday, is that the electric vehicles, whatever the freebie that they get, is being reversed. And he doesn't want that.
So he's been all in against this big, beautiful bill. And it is really troublesome for Trump. Like Trump made mention of it today. Mike Lee made mention of it today. MAGA Mike Johnson, the House leader, was like, oh, he's wrong. And this is after everybody who said Elon's an idiot this week, and today specifically, was like, Elon's cracked the code. He's a super genius. We give him full control over the government. No big deal. And then when Elon's like, by the way, adding $3 trillion to the fucking deficit is burdening our children with all kinds of debt they'll never be able to get out from underneath. And that was the entire purpose of Doge. Interest payments, Elon says, this is several hours ago, interest payments on this debt, already consumed 25% of all government revenue. The massive deficit spend continues. There's only going to be money for interest payments and nothing else. No Social Security, no medical, no defense, no nothing. And defense is his key, right? That's where he wants all that money. And then he retweets Rand Paul, who he ran out of the gym a couple of months ago, if you remember. I've been pretty consistent in my time in the Senate. I oppose deficit spending. Fiscal responsibility is in campaign slogan, duty, which I take seriously, which is why I'm voting against the bill. And then Elon Musk then tweets a Jerome Powell friendly tweet with Jerome Powell talking about how the national debt is rising by $1 trillion every 180 days. And he says this immense level of overspending will drive America into debt slavery. So now he uses pretty fucking specific language. And then he retweets the not the B, which is, I believe, the what is it, the San Jose Bee or the Sacramento Bee, that kind of Sacramento Bee. Same thing, mocking MAGA Mike Johnson. And then, another tweet from Brian Armstrong where he's shitting all over the U.S. national debt. And then he does it again with Rand Paul about Rand Paul and Elon Musk versus Donald Trump over the big, beautiful bill. Like, he's all in. And to the point where it's like, yesterday we were opining whether or not this was performative. I don't know that it necessarily is. Where Jerome
Listen, anything
Powell,
Rand Paul does, anything Rand Paul is directly comes out of the Kremlin. And Ron Paul was the same. Rand Paul was the one who went and hand-delivered a letter to Vladimir Putin in 2017, went all the way there to just send him a letter. And Ron Paul was such a regular visitor to the Kremlin that, that entire movement, the Tea Party movement, the whole thing, it was a Russian-created event. So every time you see Rand Paul say anything, it's coming out of the Kremlin. He's paid by the Kremlin. So is Ron Johnson. So is, by the way, Elon Musk, who's so beholden to the Kremlin that, this entire episode of putting Trump in power was a collaboration between him and Vladimir Putin. This is a Russian exercise at hitting Trump. And I mean, that's my opinion. I think that it's borne out by some facts there. But, I don't think we can take too much joy in that because it's a Russian offensive against him.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Like, Russia will use any trigger at their disposal to be able to create chaos in any country around the world, right?
Yeah.
So, they've activated Elon Musk, they've activated Ron and Rand Paul. Sure, great, but this public separation.
That is the point. Yeah, that's a really good point that you're making there. Yeah.
Of Elon Musk saying not only is Donald Trump's bill full of pork fat and is all bullshit, he's going to kill your kids. Like, he's using that same MAGA language to inflame the people who came with him into the MAGA camp to bring them back over. And again, the impetus being what it is, the obstacle for him is his Tesla share price and how much money he takes out of that. Maybe he's saving face. Either way, this is a major break.
Russia's telling
loyalty
Trump,
to
fuck
Trump.
You. That's what this is. He's telling Trump, fuck you. And he, instead of saying, fuck you back, he is playing the game of trying to charm Putin and calling him very strong and all this other thing. Instead, this is the moment that Donald Trump needs to stand up to Vladimir Putin and show us that he is actually capable of being an independent. You know what? Let's see it now, because Putin is busy shooting his policy. His signature policy is being killed by Rand Paul and Musk, and he's just going to sit there and take it. What kind of chicken is he? I mean, really, this is getting the biggest chicken in the world. You've got an opportunity here. You've got 80% of the Senate ready to go with you. Let's get those sanctions against Russia instituted today.
Never happened.
I know it's never going to happen. I want to see people try make it happen because he's vulnerable right now. He's lost the Russians on his one side. He has very little else to go on. It is, if he wants to reclaim any sort of credibility as the president of the United States, he would sanction Vladimir Putin, I would argue. We have two more stories we've got to get to. So
I know. Let me just kind of put this in there too, is if I'm Elon Musk, right? If I'm Elon Musk and the people around Donald Trump, I'm looking at that line of weakness that we just talked about, and I'm exploiting the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah. They're doing it. They did it in the call today. They exploited that conversation, that readout by Donald Trump sounded like it came out of, Sputnik News. So, they're exploiting the hell out of it, and he's falling for it. We shouldn't let him do that. Two really big stories I got to get to, so I'm going to do these as quickly as I can, and I know you opine on both of these things. In New York City today, a Chilean woman on vacation with her 12-year-old daughter, mistakenly arrested by the NYPD and ICE in Times Square. Is taking
You
her
see that video,
daughter.
by the way?
I said, I did. Yeah, I did. It's a crazy video. She's taking her 12-year-old daughter to Times Square for the first time. She was held for 8 hours without charges. Her daughter, a 12-year-old from Chile who does not know where she is in the world, in the middle of Times Square, was left crying and alone on the street. There's video of this, as you point out, and it shows the arrest. This is unbelievable that the New York Police Department, that ICE would leave a teenage daughter, not familiar with the language, not familiar with the place, in Times Square of all places, which is not a good place for any 12-year-old kid, frankly. And to do this in broad daylight as they arrest the wrong person, as they arrest someone who's a tourist in the country, as they arrest them as being an illegal immigrant. And despite this woman's many, many complaints, keep her held for 8 hours. The the stories that keep coming out about ICE are so despicable, are so heartless, are so humaneless. It's just, I don't know. I can't even find words to describe what they're doing anymore. But we need to keep highlighting exactly these things because it's horrifying.
Um, Meanness is the point. Okay, like let's all get on side with
Yeah.
the whole idea that it doesn't matter who they arrest or why they arrest them as long as people see them get arrested. That's only the only thing that matters to Kristi Noem. The only thing that matters to Donald Trump. The only thing that matters to Stephen Miller is how can we put out a video in 30 to 60 seconds, a little soundbite, right? How can we get a little micro content campaign going? Showing the arrest and the persecution of people who do not look American enough to be in America, right? This is a woman on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been there for 2 days with her family. She had a 12-year-old daughter. Her husband went to go get funnel cakes or something fucked up of some kind of treat for them. And somehow ICE agents realized or knew that this woman was from Chile. Where did they follow her from? How did they know she was in the country? Where are they getting that surveillance from? Who else are they fucking targeting? This is a woman on vacation who paid great money to fly from Chile to New York to experience one of the wonders of the world, which is Times Square. And while she's standing next to a light post, she gets arrested in a really nice little blue outfit with a nice white blouse over top, or like a cardigan, maybe a what do you call those things? Chamois? What do you call them? A shawl?
Uh,
Nice
uh,
little shawl
yeah, shawl or throw
with her
or something. I don't
daughter
know.
crying next to her, and her husband
Yeah.
nowhere to be seen because he went to go get snacks because they were visiting New York. They followed that woman. ICE agents, brown shirts, Donald Trump's fucking SS. Followed that
Unbelievable.
woman from the airport to her hotel, then followed her out of her hotel, fucking camped out, watching her ride around New York City, enjoying the sights and sounds of one of the great fucking cities on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, when she left her hotel and was standing at a crosswalk next to a green lamppost, and everybody can watch this video, they're more than welcome to. They handcuffed her. They got a woman to handcuff her, arrest her, while her daughter was several feet away crying, going, "What the fuck is happening? We came to New York. We came to the United States of America for a fucking vacation."
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they're able to do that to someone in the city, in the country for 48 hours, who are they going to do that to in the United States of America
Yeah.
who've been there for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years? Don't think for a second they're not watching you, surveilling you. Don't think for a second they're not fucking camping out, trying to fucking wait for their moment to come after you if you are not American, or if you have any kind of infraction and you're not from America. And even if you're in that country legally, they are coming for you because they're now coming for people on vacation in the United States of America.
I mean, if anyone has any soul at all, just think about this 12-year-old girl in Times Square. I mean, if you've been to Times Square, it's the busiest place I've been to ever. It's not a place you can just hang out and find a quiet corner and sit down and wait for things. You can't even you keep moving through Times Square. It's the busiest point of New York City. It's incredibly busy. To leave a 12-year-old girl who can't even speak the language, isolated, crying on the street. I don't care which country in the world wants to be seen around the world as a country that abandons teenagers in the most difficult place of the city, New York City, in this criminal place, and and they just leave her there. And this doesn't matter what color skin she is. It doesn't matter what she, where she comes from. Just don't leave a 12-year-old girl on the streets in Times Square. It's just
Mm.
not okay.
You talking about basic human rights?
Just humanity, just basic. Just don't do this because
Yeah.
you can't. Don't take her mother and hold her for 8 hours, leaving this poor girl sitting there because we don't do that in America. We care about families in America. We care about families no matter where they come from. We want to keep families together in America. That's the whole point behind, the so-called Republican movement is family values. Well, where's the family values when you can't even have enough of humanity to keep a 12-year-old with her mother?
How about the family values of the GOP? And people are talking about it in the actual chat right now, and
Mhm,
it's fucking going off. And I love all you people. Of the pro-life family, the pro-child not trafficking family. They just
mhm,
arrested a mother and left a 12-year-old girl on the streets of New York by herself for 8 fucking hours
mhm.
because she doesn't look American enough. I mean,
It's a crime of being
it's
un-American. This is the crime. This is now a
it's a
crime in
crime of not
America.
being a fucking white
Y
Christian is
yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what they mean when they say it's, not that it's un-legislative, it's the crime is being un-American. And whatever they determine to be un-American is what and this will change over the years. It starts now with being, "Hey, it's the brown people or the black people." But just you wait. It's gonna be the liberals. It's gonna be all sorts of other people that they are going to add into this notion of who is un-American because they've convinced a small group of Americans that they are the only Americans, that they are the real Americans and everybody else doesn't belong. But that's not the case. We all know that's not the case, and we know that's not the truth. But in the meantime, these poor people are getting, criminalized for just existing in their skin.
Oh, for dude, and for spending money here. Like
Hmm.
this is racist McCarthyism.
Hmm.
It's what it
It's
is.
yeah, yeah.
It's got nothing to
It's
do with anything
apartheid is
else.
what it
It
is.
is apartheid. 100%. It is absolutely well said, sir. Well said.
Our number one story of the day, and I'm sorry we're going to go a little over here, but we'll do this as quickly as we can. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is planning to strip the name from the Navy ship honoring gay rights icon Harvey Milk and could expand the purge to include other vessels recognizing prominent civil rights figures. The decision could be announced mid-June, right in the middle of Pride Month, to coincide with Pride, as I just said, which Trump has rejected celebrating Pride this month. It's very unusual for a president to do that, but I guess he's not gay enough. As part of Hegseth's broader effort to impose the administration's culture war agenda on the military, they're going to take the Harvey Milk, which is an incredible thing to name that vessel Harvey Milk, and they're going to try and change the name of that. Harvey Milk, for those of you who don't know, was an incredible figure in the movement of gay rights as San Francisco mayor. I think he was the mayor. I hope he was.
Councilman.
Councilman.
Councilman. Yeah.
Yeah. He was also a Navy veteran. Yeah, he served during the Korean War and became a gay rights activist afterwards. In San Francisco, is widely respected as one of the leading voices in gay rights in America. And now he can't even be honored by a vessel for his service in the Navy and in humanity and protecting gay rights around the world. It is an abomination. This man, Pete Hegseth, is allowed to prosecute a culture war in in the Navy, but also worse than that, what they're trying to do again is trying to make people feel like the other. They're trying to make the LGBT community the other. They're trying to put all the blame for everything that the white man might have gone through in the recent years, whatever it might be, whether it's the fact that they can't get laid or they can't get a job or they're just depressed. They're blaming it on immigrants. They're blaming it on the LGBT community. They're blaming it on everybody else. And this is what this is about. No one cares about Harvey Milk's name on being on this boat, except for Pete Hegseth and except for Donald Trump, who are prosecuting a culture war for these minority whites who feel like they're being prosecuted, but in fact, or persecuted, but in fact, they're not.
Mm. Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, anybody that has an issue with Harvey Milk being the name of a boat, anybody that has an issue with the Air Canada LGBTQ flight, anybody who says a commercial celebrating a marginalized community is having, gayness shoved down their throats, anybody can be classified in with one word: pussies. They are beta males. They are afraid of anybody who doesn't look like them, doesn't act like them, and they're afraid for a couple of reasons. One, I think when you have to get angry enough to take the name of Harvey Milk off of the USS Destroyer
Mm.
because he was a leading advocate for human rights, right? Human rights. Gay rights are human rights. If you're one of those people and you're that offended, that means deep down, you've got this deep seated need to be somewhere with another person of your same sex having a sexual experience. And I don't doubt for a second that Donald Trump has got a bunch of gay shit in his closet. I don't doubt for a second that Pete Hegseth probably has a ton of gay shit in his closet.
Elon Musk has a lot of gay shit in his closet. That's for sure.
Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, not so much in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a paper tiger. This whole anti-gay, anti-DEI, LGBTQ thing is only necessary to this group of individuals because they are wholly unqualified to govern. And so they need another, to your point. They need an us versus them. And someone who I used to respect on social media, because I put out a tweet today about the Air Canada LGBTQ flight. It's a commercial, it's a promo celebrating gay, lesbians, transgender people, and operating in a space of safety for them. Someone I used to respect, and her name's Tracy, and it's all that matters. She's like, well, I must be a hillbilly because I didn't like that. I just want the right people flying my plane.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, for a fucking second, so you're telling me that the only people who are qualified to fly your plane aren't gay?
Mm-hmm.
So the assumption there is that gay people are not as good at flying planes as straight people? Is that what you're telling me? Person didn't respond.
That's what she's saying.
Because they're pussies,
Mm-hmm.
because they're babies,
Mm-hmm.
because they're projectionists, because they're afraid. Because they're afraid if they get too close to a gay person, they might like that gay person. And they might like gayness. And they might touch a wiener. Or they might, or their wiener might get touched.
They probably do.
And they might like it, like J.D. Vance. I happen to know for a fact J.D. Vance is heavily bisexual. I know that for a fucking fact.
That's news to me.
Absolutely. Not only is J.D. Vance bisexual, Pete Hegseth also bisexual. And they will go, 100%. 100%. I know these things for a fact. When someone projects this strong anti-gay, they're not going to get us with their gayness, it's because they're afraid that one experience or one conversation might tip them over the edge of gayness. Like it's literally the whole thing.
It's true.
And as a strategy, I can tell you this. It's an effective strategy because when you are bereft of answers, when you're bereft of solutions for your electorate, what you have to do is point at a group of people, point at another group of people and go, it's their fault. And because we live in a society where Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin have so effectively weaponized everybody against the LGBT community, like, dude, the Reagan airport disaster. The first thing Sean Duffy, who also is bisexual, the first thing that Sean Duffy did was go, it's probably some lesbians or some women on that flight that were operating both of those planes. I'm like, I get it. Listen, every single person that has an issue with USS Harvey Milk, with a DEI flight, a lesbian pilot, a gay fucking professor, everybody that has an issue with it, it has an issue with it because they want to keep you as far away from their homosexual, entitled, gay tendencies as long as they possibly can before they give in to the idea they might like to walk on the wild side. That is a fact. Don't ever question it. Because Pete Hegseth has absolutely been somewhere with someone where he doesn't want to talk about it, and that someone is a dude, which is good for him. I don't give a fuck what he does. I don't care what he does with his wiener. I don't care where he goes with another man. I don't care what anybody does sexually. I like blondes. You like dudes. I like boobs. You don't. That's as
Hey, hey,
fucking
hey!
far as it.
I
Well,
didn't say
maybe you
that.
do like boobs. I don't know. Maybe you
You
do.
know, Peter Hegseth might not like to admit who he is, and he might not want the story of Harvey Milk told, and he might not want Harvey Milk's name to be remembered. So I'll mention this. On November 27th, 1978, Harvey Milk and the San Francisco mayor, George Moscone, were assassinated
Hmm.
for their beliefs. A disgruntled former city supervisor was the killer there. The lenient sentence given to White for the killings, manslaughter instead of murder, sparked outrage and led to the White Night riots, a pivotal moment for the LGBT community and activism. And that was part of the story that changed the trajectory of gay people in America. The other part, of course, was Stonewall. The other part was Obama's and the Supreme Court allowing gay marriage. And of course, that was Joe Biden who pushed the that bill through, and his belief in gay rights and gay marriage. And I just wanted to, we started off the show, and this was, I promise you, this was not planned, but we started off the show talking about how the absence of fear is what I felt coming to Canada, and how I felt that same thing going on in the United States every time I visited America. And Harvey Milk was killed for these beliefs. Harvey Milk and the mayor were killed because of the beliefs that MAGA is now espousing, that Pete Hegseth now wants to reintroduce into America, that wants to, build an entire white nationalist movement back in America on the backs of the people who've already struggled so much. Gay and lesbian Americans have already struggled against discrimination so much, and as did Harvey Milk, and the work that he did to allow gay men and gay women to be free is much greater than Pete Hegseth can ever imagine, and much greater than Donald Trump will ever do in several lifetimes.
Mm.
And he said before he died that if a bullet should ever enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door. And that was prophetic. It did, in fact, have a huge impact on gay men and women around the world. And I hope Americans understand that every little move these guys make, every little move to take Harvey Milk's name off a destroyer, every little move to decriminalize our history, our civil rights history, is pushing us back into a world we can't afford to be in.
Hmm.
And it's being done for cheap political tricks and cheap political favors. And everyone should oppose, especially during Pride Month, this notion that Harvey Milk's name should be taken off that destroyer. He deserves it. His legacy should live on, and Pete Hegseth can do nothing to stop him from happening.
No, and as a gay man, your words carry enormous weight because you've lived that life. You understand who your heroes are in your community, and as my friend, they mean more. So I'm grateful for them. We live in a time where it's not just gay men; it is black men and women whose names are being erased from history,
Mm,
whose books are being burned, whose accomplishments are being destroyed and forgotten by an
mhm,
administration who want to assert white power, want to forget about, slavery. They want to forget about, um, you know, progressive values. They want to bury the idea that human rights are just that. They are human rights. They're not human rights for rich white guys and their families. They are human rights for a reason. And there is no other alternative to that other than hatred. That is just pure unadulterated hate. And if you side with it, you allow it, you permit it, you promote it. You're a purveyor of hate if you're a Trump supporter. You're a purveyor of hate if you're a Hegseth supporter. You're a purveyor of lies and deceit and anger and backwards values that do not stand for the values of what a progressive society stands for. And they call that karma where I'm from. I don't believe in karma. I believe in consequence. There are natural consequences,
mhm.
and those natural consequences will come back. Where, Harvey Milk's name, if it gets erased from a USS class destroyer, will get put back on that USS class destroyer. The names of human rights and black rights activists that have been wiped out and their accomplishments at war memorials, which has happened in the past like 3, 4 months, they will come back because smarter people will fight back. Smarter people, better people will get voted in. But for the time being, this is an incredible reminder to Americans, to Canadians, to people around the world of how a society can be perverted by hatred, by white men and their dumb women, their Karens, who not only permit this, but promote it by allowing it.
Hmm.
And going back to what you said, which is so important, and we started the show off of this, the opposite of fear is love. Now, there are two different ways you can deal with what we're dealing with, and it's through loving these people or it's through mocking these people. I happen to think there's a bit of a balance there. I'm going to mock them
Yeah.
and I'm going to love the ones who deserve it. But in no way, shape, or form does Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, any maggot, any maple maggot, anybody that's got hatred, exclusionary values deserve your time, deserve your patience. You call it out when you see it, you get militant about it, and you fight back with facts, and you deliver those with love. If you got someone in your family who's decided that, yeah, you know what, I don't like the gays, or I don't like the blacks, or yeah, DEI is not for me, just rest assured that that perspective comes from such an uneducated place that those people are not worth your fucking time either. There's a long fucking history of people who have downloaded other people's perspectives and been so confused by them. There is one way to move forward as a society, and it's not in hatred. It's in respect, inclusivity, and love, and doing the right thing when it matters the most. And right now, it really matters that you stick up for the marginalized. Right now, it really matters that we, as straight white men, and I'm talking to you, straight white guys, if you're listening, there's probably a few, that you give your privilege to those communities, that you vote with those communities in mind, that you stand up with those communities behind you, because your privilege matters more than ever now. I've talked to straight white guys for a long period of time because of the job that I used to have um, on the radio. And that was my bread and butter, 18 to 34-year-old angry white construction workers.
Mm.
And if I'm talking to those same people today, I'm telling you the same thing, is that the only way to respect yourself and to provide community around you and your family that works for you and your family is through love, and it's not fear. It's through inclusiveness and not exclusivity. Those are the most important aspects of your life that will feed into your life, that will give you a good life. It's by giving your privilege to other people who truly need it. And I mean that today more than ever.
That is beautiful. And Dean, we should have end the show there. But love is the antidote to Trump. Love is the antidote to MAGA. It's the most powerful force in the world. Everybody knows that. And we're more united. We're better when we love each other and we find a way to defeat this horrible dividing force that's taken over our government together. And I'm sure that'll happen if we stick to those values and stick to the love that we all have for each other. That's the FiveStack for today. Dean Blundell, Substack.com is the Substack you have to subscribe to. Mine is narrative.org, NARATIV.org. Thank you for being here on the FiveStack. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day.